If you spent your whole working life in the private sector and you've been watching every one of those videos scream that Social Security owes you $22,000, I need you to hear something. Almost all of that money everyone's talking about right now went to teachers, to firefighters, to police officers, not to you. There was a law that repealed a pair of rules called the Windfall Elimination Provision and the Government Pension Offset, and it handed out $17 billion in back pay, 3.1 million checks. And if you worked a regular job that paid into Social Security your whole life, you got exactly none of it. So here's what nobody bothered to tell the rest of us. The money you're actually owed is real too. It's just hiding somewhere completely different. Stay with me, because the last one I'm going to show you is the one most people never claim, and it can be the biggest check of all. Let me clear something up before we go one step further, because I know what half of you are already thinking. You're thinking this is one of those "you were a government worker" things, and it doesn't apply to you. Wrong. This is the opposite of that. Everything I'm about to walk you through is for people who paid Social Security taxes out of every single paycheck at a normal job for 30 or 40 years. Factory workers, nurses, truck drivers, office folks, small business owners, renters, this is yours too. And it's not only for people scraping by, and it's not only for the well-off. Both of those assumptions are wrong. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly which of these applies to you, the exact form to ask for, and roughly what it's worth. I'm not an attorney and I'm not a tax advisor, so take this as a starting map, not personal advice. But it's a map most people never even get handed. So let's start with the one that quietly robs more private sector retirees than any other, your earnings record. Here's the part that should make you a little angry. The size of your Social Security check is built entirely from one thing, the record of how much you earned year by year across your whole career. Social Security keeps that record, and that record has mistakes in it, a lot of the time. An employer files your wages under a slightly wrong name. A number gets transposed. A company you worked for in 1988 went under and never sent in your last year. A W-2 gets crossed up between your name and your Social Security number. When that happens, that year of your work just vanishes. It shows up as a zero. And a 0 year drags your whole benefit down. The Social Security folks will tell you plainly, if 1 year of your earnings never got reported, your monthly check can come out around $100 a month lighter than it should be. 1 year. $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year for the rest of your life gone. Miss a few years and you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars you paid for and never got back. And I want you to really sit with how ordinary this is. This isn't some rare glitch that hits one person in a million. Think about how many jobs you held over 40 years. Every one of those employers had to report your wages correctly every year to the right agency. All it takes is one of them getting it wrong once. A company that got bought out, a payroll clerk who fat-fingered your Social Security number. A year you worked 2 jobs and only one of them showed up. I've seen people who assume the government just knows what they earned. It doesn't always. It knows what got reported. Those are two completely different things. So what do you do about it? First, you go pull your earnings statement. You make a free account at ssa.gov, and you look at every single year, and you compare it against your old tax returns or your old W-2s if you kept them. If a year is missing or the number is way too low, you fix it with a form. The form is called the SSA-7008, a request for correction of earnings record. You can download it, you can grab one at any local office, or you can call the national line at 1-800-772-1213 and ask for it by name. Send it in with your proof, pay stubs, tax returns, whatever shows the real number. Now here's the catch, and this is why I'm putting this one first. There's a clock on it. Generally, you get 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days after a year ends to correct that year's wages. After that window, it gets much harder. You can still fix it in certain cases, like when your own tax return proves the number, but it's not the easy correction anymore. So the ones sitting on this the longest are the ones about to lose the most. If you've never once looked at your earnings record, that's the very first thing to do when this video ends. Now let me show you the second one, because this is where real dollars start stacking up, and almost nobody uses it right. It's called a delayed retirement credit, and the idea is simple, even though the way it's explained usually makes your eyes glaze over. Your full retirement age, for almost everyone watching this, is 67. That's the age Social Security calls your finish line. But here's the thing nobody frames correctly. You do not have to stop the clock there. For every single month you wait past 67, before you turn 70, they add money to your check, permanently. How much? About 8% more for every year you wait. Wait all 3 years, from 67 to 70, and your check goes up by 24%. For life. Let me put a real number on that so it lands. Take the higher end figures for 2026. A check that would have been around $4,200 a month at 67 becomes about $5,100 at 70. That's roughly $970 more every month. Call it around $11,700 a year, extra, for the rest of your life, just for knowing to wait. And you don't have to be near the top to feel this. Let's say your check at 67 would be around $2,000 a month, a very normal private sector number. Wait to 70, and that 24% turns it into roughly $2,480. That's almost $480 more every single month for as long as you live. On a $1,500 check, the same math still adds about $360 a month. Whatever your number is, waiting moves it up by nearly a quarter. Find your own figure in that. Now, is waiting right for everybody? No. If your health is poor or you genuinely need the money now, taking it earlier can be the smarter call, and I'd never tell you to starve for 3 years to chase a bigger number. But here's who this really helps. The private sector retiree who's still working a bit at 67, or who has a little set aside to bridge the gap, and who has no idea that every month of patience is literally buying a raise they can never lose. Nobody at Social Security is going to call and remind you that clock is ticking in your favor. Which brings me straight to the third one. And this one is for the people who are already past their full retirement age and haven't filed yet, because there's a door that quietly closes on you and there's money behind it. Say you turned 67, and for whatever reason, you were still working, you just didn't get around to it, you didn't know the rules, you didn't file right away. Here's what most folks don't realize. When you finally do file, Social Security can pay you up to 6 months of benefits retroactively, in one lump sum going back, but only back to your full retirement age and never more than 6 months. So if you're 7 or 8 months past 67 and about to file, you can ask for 6 months of back pay in a single check. At an average benefit, 6 months of back pay is real money, thousands of dollars all at once. Now I have to be straight with you about the trade, because this is exactly the kind of thing that gets left out. Taking those 6 months back costs you some of those delayed credits we just talked about, roughly 4% off your ongoing monthly check. So it's a choice, not free money. But for a lot of people, someone who needs a chunk of cash right now, someone dealing with a medical bill, someone who simply didn't know to file on time, grabbing those 6 months is absolutely the right move, and you have to know to ask for it, because a lot of the time nobody offers it up. Here's the honest bottom line on this one. If you're sitting past 67 right now and you still haven't filed, do not just quietly file online without understanding this. That lump sum is on the table, and so is the trade-off, and it's your call to make, but only if somebody tells you the door exists. All right, the fourth one. And this is the one I see private sector couples leave on the table more than any other, year after year, because they never think it applies to them. Spousal benefits. And before anyone tunes out, no, this is not just for stay-at-home spouses of the wealthy. This is for regular couples, where one person earned a lot more than the other over the years. Here's how it works. If you're married, you can collect a benefit based on your own work record, or you can collect up to half of your spouse's full benefit, whichever one is bigger, up to 50% of what your husband or wife would get at their full retirement age. Think about what that means in a normal household. One spouse worked steady, high-paying jobs for 40 years. The other took time off to raise kids, or worked part-time, or had a lower-paying career. That lower-earning spouse might have a small benefit of their own, but half of the higher earner's check could be much, much larger. And the difference between those two? That's a top-up the government pays. But, and this is the whole trap, nobody hands it to you. You have to file for it. And there's a rule people trip over constantly. The higher earner generally has to have filed for their own benefit first before the lower-earning spouse can collect that spousal amount. Miss that sequence, and you can leave money sitting unclaimed for months. Let me put it in plain terms. If your spouse's full benefit is, say, $2,000 a month and your own is only $700, you're not stuck with $700. You may be able to step up to $1,000, half of theirs. That's an extra $300 a month you'd otherwise never see. On a smaller check, that can be the difference between tight and comfortable. And here's the one caveat worth knowing. Unlike your own benefit, waiting past your full retirement age does not grow the spousal amount. So once you're at your full age, there's no reason to keep waiting on this one. So let me bring all 4 of these back down to earth, because I don't want this to feel like a pile of rules. This is about your money. 1. Your earnings record. Go check it, fix the zeros with that 7008 form before the clock runs out, and stop your own check from being $100 light every month. 2. Delayed credits. If you can wait past 67, every month buys you a permanent raise up to 24% by 70. 3. Retroactive months. If you're already past your full age and haven't filed, up to 6 months of back pay is sitting there. Just understand the trade before you take it. And 4. Spousal benefits. If there's a big earnings gap between you and your husband or wife, you might be owed up to half their check, but you have to file for it in the right order. Not one of these has anything to do with being a teacher or a firefighter or a cop. Every single one of them is for the regular working person who paid into this system out of every paycheck for their whole life. The reason so many people miss all four isn't that they're careless. It's that the system runs exactly the way it was built to run. It pays what you ask for, correctly and by the rules, and it stays very quiet about everything you didn't know to ask for. The people who get this money aren't smarter than you, and they aren't luckier than you. They're just the ones who found out. So let me ask you to do one thing. Think of one person over 65 in your life, a neighbor, a sibling, a parent, who spent their life in a normal private sector job and probably assumes none of this applies to them. Send them this video. It might genuinely be worth thousands of dollars to them, and it cost you nothing. If this helped you see even $1 you didn't know was yours, do me a small favor and hit that like button and subscribe to channel name, because I dig into exactly this kind of overlooked senior money every single week, and I'd hate for you to miss the next one. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Of these four, which one did you already know about, and which one is brand new to you? Drop the number. I read them, and the answers tell me what to cover next. One last thing before you go. I'm putting together a simple, free one-page checklist that walks you through checking your earnings record and asking for each of these by name, step by step, so you don't have to remember all of it. Keep an eye out for it. Until then, go pull that earnings statement. That's the first move, and it's the one nobody ever tells you to make. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.